Thank you, Chairman. Now I request CA Neta Kishore Garu, Vice Chairman of the branch, to introduce this session speaker.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Let me say a few words about CA Kuntal Shah. He is the most sought after speaker whenever the bank audit comes. Not only that, he is also a speaker at or a faculty person or faculty member for various certificate courses that is being conducted by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. In fact, people like Kuntal Shah, a few of them, they were very much busy for the entire month of March, going to branches across the length and breadth of India. We are so happy that he could find time to come to Vijayawada. Previously, for the last 3 years, people were used to this Zoom sessions, but now they have to travel. In a Zoom session, it is enough that they can spend only 3 hours sitting at their comfort place. But to come to Vijayawada, in fact, every speaker has to take at least 2 days time out of their busy schedule. We are so happy that speakers like Kuntal Shah are supporting Vijayawada branch. Friends, CA Kuntal Shah is a Bachelor of Commerce from Gujarat University and a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He has secured A+ grade in Diploma in Computer Programming of CDAC, Center for Development of Advanced Computing, and R&D organization of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. He is a practicing chartered accountant since 2007. He is currently practicing in the fields of audit, income tax, GST, FEMA, and company law. He has been a regular speaker in various training programs, certificate courses, and seminars organized by ICAI across India. He has contributed through writing for various publications published by the regional councils of ICAI, AASB, IASB, and CIT of ICAI Delhi. He has dealt with the subjects related with bank statutory and concurrent audits, company law, income tax, use of MS Excel for auditors, tax and regulatory nuances of cryptocurrencies, etc. With this brief, I welcome today's speaker of the session, CA Kuntal Shah, to take it forward.
First. No, not this one. I'll do. Good morning to one and all. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you all after so many years. I came here for a certificate course. I'm not aware of, I think 2016, that is what I was reminded of. I think I can see now it's a complete change and makeover of branch as well. And I am happy to learn that your branch received back to back, I think, for an hectic number of years, accolades as well. And it's very important that when our branch, why I'll say our branches, because it's the focal point for all of us as a member. that it is our institute and it's our institute's initiative. And it is always important that we recognize the role of ICI in our life as well. Yes, there is a problem right now in terms of a particular assignment in bank audit. There are issues as well. Yesterday, when I was coming from an airport, chairman sir informed me that if you can talk for some time as well, that what will be the future of practice as well as for a bank audit per se. Frankly speaking, again, this is my personal opinion, so don't count it as an opinion of an ICI. Since last so many years, rather, not of a year or rather of 6th of March, there have been indications that there will be some impact on bank audit. Reason being, the major driver is technology. Sad part is the banking technology evolved in such a leaps and bounds. However, the members, as a member, that is auditing fraternity, we have not had opportunity to upgrade ourselves in that pace. I'm not saying we have not upgraded, but we have not upgraded to that pace. Now the problem is it's a very wide gap between what is there and what we should be auditing. Secondly, it's not a question on our quality, it's on reporting as well. When ICI, the central body, goes for a discussion with RBI, what happens is that regulators will always see, now be it when RBI or Ministry of Finance or any, they will see this, that what is the outcome of an audit. Now you would have identified a lot of issues. You would have reported somewhere, but not the place where you should be reporting into. My perspective of including this part into this discussion is this, that we might have encountered certain things which might require correction in the books of accounts through an MOC, or something which is impacting my true and fair view, and I have not reported into the audit report. Now that creates certain set of implications whereby the work that we have carried out is not getting canvassed as well. Once again, let me be very clear. I don't want to be judged as an auditor just because the auditee is inefficient. But if there is a problem in an auditee organization or somewhere where I am auditing, it is my role to put it in a perspective where it is required to be. So first take-home message is, if you find any issue, do report it and report it properly. Fair enough. Wherever MOC is required, you give that MOC. There is no bar in giving any MOC. As far as asset classification part is concerned, there is no materiality level. Even for 1,000 rupees account, asset classification is mandatory because you are signing an entire asset classification. Fair enough. In addition to it, mark my words, in addition to it, you may need to report it in LFAR. LFAR is not a substitution for a main audit report. Please understand this. While coming from hotel to branch location, I was discussing with sir only that the problem that we are doing is this, because of under pressure or just out of this one, that why should we qualify multiple location. So we were discussing where we are lacking. See, we need to understand, we need to introspect as well. The problem is many of the time we mentioned in LFAR, right? But we don't give MOC, we don't mention anything into the main audit report, right? Because branch would have said this, sir, aapko qualify karna hai. If you want to qualify it, you qualify it in LFAR and don't do anything in the main audit report through MOC. It may create some problem or blah, 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 something. The problem that you are now inviting trouble for yourself. How? The LFAR consolidation happened at the central office level in the month of June, whereas the financials would be finalized by the end of April or first week of May. Till that time, nobody is going to touch your LFAR. Understand this. Meaning thereby, if you have mentioned something that this account is not properly classified, right? And you have mentioned therein, but you have not issued MOC, right? You identified an issue, but you failed to report it properly. So the signature that you have made on a financial statement is incorrect. It is a fit case for the regulator, that is RBI, to prosecute you. You are aware of the fact. You have even mentioned in LFAR, but you have not qualified into your audit report. So it is like I am saying that, yes, you come, you slit my head because I am aware of kind of thing. So please don't enter into that kind of arrangement. Secondly, if you read it minutely, LFAR, it categorically states that if you are not agreeing with the asset classification, have you issued MOC? Understand? So even in LFAR also the question is there. LFAR got amended with applicability from 2021. My point is this, that please take a print of that, read it twice. Reason being, there are certain changes which are so much of a danger to an audit fraternity. Reason being, to complete that audit, you will require a lot of work to do. It's not yes, no, thank you report. Please desist with the simple answer of yes, no. Mention what you have carried out. If it is not applicable, why it is not applicable. Assuming that if it is related to some specific product, let's say FCNR. Just for an example, if the branch is not having any FCNR, review it through GL. Obtain a confirmation from the branch and mention the entire fact. Why it is not applicable. Simply do not say yes, no, not applicable, thank you. Please desist with this one, otherwise it is going to be a very difficult situation. There are practice areas that we need to now evolve around. You all would be aware of a problem of Y2K when year 2000 came in, right? Everyone says that it's a doomsday for everything, all system will vanish. Nothing has happened. Nothing is going to happen this time as well. It is only that we need to initiate some process. Maybe you are in young age or a senior age, but we need to now evolve around. You can't simply stay on a single path and then say that I'll get everything through this path only, right? That's not going to happen. It will be a difficult one. I am not saying that it will be a very easy path, but that's what the challenge that you have got in your profession. You have one option, either go out of a profession. That will be very difficult for everyone. But that's what the source of earning that we have. Or face the challenge. Right? A certain, there are multiple areas also available, or at least create some areas, avenues. I am aware about the challenges that you are facing in Vijayawada with respect to the industry, or not having any companies on that count or something. It is going to be more difficult than this one, because I come from a place where almost every alternate house is having an own factory. Right. So we come from that background, but we have different challenge. We have 14,000, 15,000 members in my city alone. Right. So we have different set of challenges. Challenges would be there. There are now, in our place at least, I am not aware about this, there are 3 to 4 accountancy firms, that is chartered accountant firms, who are deploying staff of more than 300 to 500. They simply do an accounting for US, New Zealand, Australia, and UK. So what you need is set of BCom persons, but your role as a chartered accountant is in designing an entire accounting system and ensuring that all the sequencing are properly met with. They also have deadline for the taxations. So you also need to meet with taxation deadlines as well. So if you can set up this one, if anyone would like to come to Ahmedabad, there are plenty. Even in Vadodara also, there is 1 or 2 firms. At least 300 to 400, and out of that, about 100 to 150 are chartered accountants. So that's an avenue available. I don't want to say that you enter into an accounting domain. I would say that you design an accounting manual or accounting process and the entire setup. The system will run itself on its own. Same thing is happening with US taxation. See, our returns, that is income tax returns that we file, it's pretty difficult here. If you give it to someone individual who is not a tax savvy, he will not be in a position to file the return, even though the name is Sarul. Right? It never used to be Sarul. And now to file a return, it's an Herculean and a mammoth task. But in US, there are certain set of income tax returns that work is also coming to us. So that kind of opportunity is also there. Rather, I have seen people traveling to US for 3 months. They stay there. They complete the entire IRS tax filing work and they come back. Visa, stay, tickets, and the payment, everything will be arranged by chartered accountant. So opportunities, why I'm sharing this, I don't want to say that you do this only, but then we need to explore certain things. One more aspect that has happened is virtual CFO, meaning thereby the person who is having a, let's say, business of 5 crore, 10 crore, right, but is not in a position to manage the finances or proper financial perspective. So CA office will provide services of virtual CFO. Right. So in that scenario, you are aware with the deadlines, you are aware with the bank finances, you are aware with all these aspects. You provide services to them on a retainership basis where your payment will be released in a monthly basis. Be it whatever is the payment. So at least you will have a problem of cash flow sorted out. Right. Banks might now give, with respect to the bank audit, banks might now give some concurrent audits as well, wherever they find it a risky one. The branch might not have been audited as per this 70%, or next year onwards, as per the discussion the audit committee and the central secretary auditor would have had. But then risk would be there. The business itself is a risky one. So you can't say that bank will do away with auditing. Right? So don't get petrified with such kind of news. Yes, there may be an issue. There may be an intermittent issue as well, but that gives you an opportunity to search something else as well. If someone gives you the thing, I won't be naming anything, but if someone gives you the things like this only, or you expect that this person or this institution will give me work and I'll work. So that makes you a bit of a reserved person in terms of you will not be in a position to review it, or you will not be in a position to view it on a global path. You will be stick to that work only, or rather you will not work only, because every month you are getting some money, right? And then you will be hooked to something else where your money will be going in something else. So don't be in that sense. Otherwise, what will happen is that your entire professional career would be in a very stagnant place. Right. So this was the background I was requested for to include certain part of this. In any case, if you have any questions, you can very well ask me. We'll have a discussion over a cup of coffee as well. That's not a problem at all, but you don't need to be petrified with such kind of decisions. Change will happen and will happen for sure. Right? We need to be adaptive to that. Yes, the change is there, and we need to ensure that we comply with that part. Okay, so let's now go on to the topic. LFAR. LFAR got amended on 5th of September 2020. Now, this presentation contains only the amendment part. If I have time available, what I do is I have another presentation as well, which I generally give on CBS. I have prepared a presentation whereby entire LFAR requirement I have synced into 4 systems: Finacle 7, Finacle 10, FlexCube, and TCS banks. So what to audit from system perspective in LFAR, and how to audit the menu codes are linked therein as well. Right? So we'll go around as how time permits. And if you have any question, that would be the best one. Rather than having a monologue, we can have a dialogue as well. Right? So feel free. I know English, Hindi. So you can say, you can ask questions into any of the language. Language should not be the barrier, but I don't know Telugu. So someone would have to translate it. So don't keep language issues here. Rather, we'll focus on what are my concerns and can we get a solution over that, right? Okay. So it got applicable from 2021 onwards. First year, exactly, nothing moved much. People remain there only, though there are a lot of changes that are proposed and that have been implemented in LFAR. We need to first understand the guiding principle on the changes side. What RBI stated is, you need to do a transaction testing. Not only transaction testing, you need to mention what you have verified. So now you need to mention the account numbers that you have verified. So you cannot say that way at a later point of time that this was in sample. Because you would have to mention that way. Not only that, you have to mention that, you need to mention that you need to select a sample whereby fund based and non-fund based limit or 10 crores, 10% of fund based and non-fund based, or 10 crore, whichever is less, you need to select it as sample. Right? Meaning thereby your minimum size is mentioned therein. Thereafter, what you need to do is you need to select certain accounts as well. In addition to that, whatever number of accounts that you select, you need to mention it into LFAR. Now, once you mention the account number, that's done deal, right? That these are the account number which I have verified. So what you need to do is this, that once you mention the account numbers, you need to ensure that all the aspects related to that account, be it a documentation, monitoring, systems, asset classification, everything is verified. Right? Understand, I'm going from a very scratch. So what you can do is, you all have a pad, right? You can mention now, I'll ask you to do 2 exercises. One exercise I am mentioning, and second, you can keep a page spare. So what you need to do is, you need to start with a fresh Excel sheet, right? In Excel sheet, the first column you use for the account number, the accounts which you will be selecting for samples, right? The multiple columns, I'll be informing you how to do it, or which kind of review part we should be doing it. Primarily, what we'll be doing it from the system perspective and as per sanction letter. So we'll be comparing both. For example, if you say that moratorium period as per sanction letter is 5 months, whether the same is updated as 5 months in system or not. Otherwise, what will happen? There will be an impact on asset classification at a later point of time. Right? Understand. Now, these are the minor nuances or the masters or the parameters that we'll be verifying. So what you need to do, let's say I have an account number here. I'll mention that what is the date of expiry as per system, second column, third is as per sanction letter, and variation. So what you need to do is, if you are senior, you just need to review the documentation. And if a young person is there who can swiftly use the system, he'll be filling up the system part and then the variation part. So wherever there is a variation, review it from all perspectives. Is there any impact on provision or in income recognition, or rather on an asset classification? Right? So now identify these columns. One is date of expiry, one is rate of interest, one is the limit. Limit includes 2 parts, sanction limit and drawing power. Then the moratorium. Right? Then comes the important one is EMI in case of EMI loans. Right? So that gives you an understanding of how this transaction, how this account is operating, or are there any issues with the system or not. The second part of that review goes with whether system is behaving properly, Is there any issue with system or there is an issue with the master data? Why I'm saying all this point, because all these are required to be mentioned in LFAR now. LFAR is such a vast report now. It is going to be a very difficult. If you have not carried out audit, you will not be in a position to mention anything. Now even SMS 0, 1 and 2 is also required to be mentioned. Just imagine. Right? So on a guiding principle, it is on a transaction testing, providing input to central statutory auditor on adequacy of implementation of various policy and regulatory requirements, efficacy of the system, and assurance functions, that is risk management, compliance, and internal audit. Now comes the review of transactions. Review of transaction is bifurcated into two parts, that is beyond threshold limit and below threshold limit. Beyond, you need to do transaction detailing, that is 10%, 10 crore. Right? Understand this. You need to do transaction detailing. Now, these are all guiding principles that RBI has mentioned while updating LFAR. Then comes the below threshold limit, system and process to be checked and commented upon. Fair enough? Now we are just going on to the guiding principle. Thereafter, we'll go each point by point. Now these are important things. Verification of data integrity and data related control systems with special thrust on data input used in MIS at corporate level. Now it becomes very important that how as a branch auditor you will ensure this. See, it is very difficult now. Unless and until you have devised your entire audit plan or a process in a way to capture data from physical document as well as from the system and having a variance available with you, you can't answer this. Right? Understand? Now let's see this part. While reviewing the file, you had reviewed this, the credit rating applicable for the customer. And credit rating, the customer was also credit rated. Now, customer got credit rated BBB, let's say, or minus, BBB minus. Now, when you see the capital adequacy returns, you find that customer accumulated under unrated rather than below the unrated. Why? Because it's a method through which you can reduce the exposure to that client in terms of capital requirement. So if you mention unrated, there is a one, let's say 100%. Example, I'm just giving, I'm not giving you exact figure. Let's say 100% risk is to be assigned. Whereas BBB minus requires 125% of risk assignment. So even though the customer is rated, you mention unrated. Now there is an integrity issue because you updated it incorrectly. You in the sense the branch has updated incorrectly or either not updated. Now you need to identify all these points. And you need to assimilate that and need to report it into LFAR in that context. Now, this is only a reporting into this context. The point is this having any impact on IRAC? That also is required to be tested. Fair enough? Yeah.
You said system-related data and the documentation data need to be compared and variance to be identified. So, do you have any format like what are all the points that need to be captured from documentation?
No. I might have, but I'll not share. I'll categorically say this reason being, there is a reason to it. If you carry out this process, you get to know inside about this. Otherwise, what is happening is, if I share this kind of thing, then people don't apply their mind at all. So that's why generally my presentations and everything will contain everything except 2-3 points, which I say that please do it on your own. So the base of it would be the sanction letter.
For each type of advance, we need to find out.
Exactly. If you do this exercise, it's a one-time exercise. I'm not saying that, and it's not a rocket science as well. I'm giving you everything, all know-how and everything. But you start with the sanction letter. You would have, by anyhow, you will have at least a copy of sanction letter. So the important parameters or important aspects of sanction letter, you simply put it into an Excel. The moment you go into an audit and you find that there is an issue with a part of an particular aspect, add it up. Or if you find that no, this point should not be there, delete it up. So next audit, you have everything ready. It's a simple Excel file, I want to say, right? There won't be anything much onto it. I've given you 5 examples, date of expiry, date of start of loan, everything would be there in the sanction letter, limit, that is sanction limit and drawing power, EMI, rate of interest, moratorium period, right? Likewise, you go ahead, then there will be an interchangeability of limit and everything would be there, right? Which requires some 2-step process into the systems. I'll show you the system command as well. Why I'm not touching upon much on a system, because the next session is there on CBS only. So I don't want to barge onto someone else's presentation, right? That's the only thing. Now, for this point we have discussed. Then comes the broad reporting parameters. The broad reporting parameters are assets, liabilities, profit and loss, general aspect of banking. Within assets, we will be verifying cash, balances with other bank, money at call and short notice, short and call notice, investment and advances. It is same as it was there in earlier LFAR as well, right? Liabilities, same. Deposits, other liability. What got changed? Within these parts, there are important changes that has occurred. Then come profit and loss account, general aspect of banking. Okay, so let's now plunge onto the updates that has happened in LFAR. Rest points remain the same, but again I am saying this, please don't use LFAR as a substitution of an audit report. Second, don't mention simply yes, no into an LFAR. You need to mention in detail why it is applicable, why it is not applicable. I would rather suggest you to prepare LFAR completely, even though the bank has a system of preparation of LFAR in their system, right? Your LFAR, many of the time what happens is the LFAR that was, the system of LFAR is there in the bank, might not give you some flexibility of writing. So if your LFAR is there, what we used to do, we used to mention at the last, where is that last point, there are certain limitations into updation of information into LFAR in this portal. Hence, we have issued a physical copy of LFAR duly signed by us, and the same has been handed over to the branch for further processing. Wherever there is an attachment available, we used to scan this LFAR and we used to upload that. Right. So, and at the last, we need to mention that this soft copy of LFAR updated through this portal should be read along with our physical copy. Wherever there is an issue of writing, if there is no problem and if you get a lot of flexibility in writing, then it's completely fine. You can directly do it into the bank system. Let's come on to an advances. Read minutely. For all accounts above the threshold, that is rupees 10 crores or 10% of aggregate balance of fund-based and non-fund-based advances, whichever is lower. Now, the important change here is with respect to the earlier LFAR is, in this LFAR also contains FB as well as NFB limits, fund-based as well as non-fund-based as well. Understand this. Earlier, we used to only consider the fund-based one. Now, what you need to do is, you need to generate not only GL, but you also need to generate the outstanding LC and BG report as well. Then you need to consolidate, you need to aggregate the fund base which is available in balance sheet, and we are all hooked to that number only because of obvious reason, right? And you need to add the non-fund based limit as well. Then ascertain the 10% part, right? Same thing is required to be done at the customer level as well. Once you have a threshold available, 10% part is available, you need to do it at the customer level as well. There will be many customers, they may be using only 1 crore of fund-based limit, but 20 crores of non-fund-based limit. Reason being, they might be in a business where performance guarantees are required in a large number. Right? So there might be the case as well. In that scenario, this account might also require to be included herein, even though the fund base is only 1 crore. Right? Okay. So that's what is important. The transaction audit account specific details to be seen and commented. Fair enough? Transaction detailing part. So for monitoring, you also need to see end user fund for these accounts. So you need to open the ledger account. You need to see all the things. Just understand now. We have just started going inside. Right? We have not entered completely on an LFAR amendment. Specific format prescribed for reporting of observations. Listing of quick mortality accounts. Now we need to list that how many accounts are there which are quick mortality, NPA within 12 months of account sanctioning. Right? So that also is required to be carried out. Then comes the correctness of interest updation on system. See, that Excel file will be very useful here. That whether interest rate is correctly updated into the system or not. Right? So when you have it in a sanction letter, say MCLR plus 2%, right? Whether the same thing is updated into the system or not, or it may so happen that in system, when you go and check, there is a change in the interest rate. Let's say MCLR plus 1%, but there is no change or no document is available that interest rate got reduced. Not because of change in MCLR, but the table itself is required to be reduced with the sanction. So in that scenario, there will be a negative comment onto this part. Not only negative comment, there will be a revenue leakage as well. Right? Because under profit and loss, they'll mention that whether it is properly collected or not, or the income is properly recognized or not. See, there are multifaceted aspects of a single observation. You need to now think it over on a 360 degree. Yeah.
Rate of interest point, you said MCLR plus this much of percentage. But in system, they are not entering like that.
System, it will be through, sorry?
Consolidated, they are entering.
No. System, there will be through interest master, table master. So you need to see to it whether table master is correctly selected or not. Interest rate, you will be seeing from a front end will be directly the rate. But it's not how the interest is computed. That is an effective rate of interest. So you need to refer to the master that is selected.
But master they will be providing.
Yeah, you can access. There is an available system is available for that. Let's say in Finacle, you can review it through INTTI. Right. In TCS Bank, interest rate history is available. But TCS Bank, there is a problem. What they give is that each change, they are listing it out. Let's say 9%, 9.5%, 10% from so and so date. So what you need to do is you have now MCLR plus 2% is a sanction rate. In that scenario, you need to have a cutoff date. Let's say 1st of April. MCLR plus 2% would be what? Right. Let's say it's 9%, example. Right. Whether the system is updated at 9%, yes. Now the subsequent change was, let's say, on 1st of July. So whether in that interest rate history, you are finding 1st of July as 9.5%, reason being there was 50 basis point increase. If that is in sync with what MCLR changes are, that's perfectly fine.
That is not sinking.
Yeah, then you need to mention it. That is what I am mentioning.
Even not only in interest rate history, in the account statement also, the rate changes will come in the statements itself.
But that is in TCS banks, not in Finacle.
In TCS bank,
yeah.
That rate history and this account statement also not matched.
No, I don't think so. There should be any difference. But again, you might have seen, I have not seen such instances. Otherwise, it is in the system that this is what the interest rate would be, and this is what the interest rate would be challenged. Yes, there may be a problem in case the person is defaulter in any of the terms, and he might have got charged with the penal interest as well. There might be an impact onto that, but I have not seen what sir has stated. Right. If that is the scenario, you have a fit case for this one. Right. Plus, there is some other aspect that is coming up that whether system is having any issue or not. The later part. Right.
And also, interest rate history will not be available for all type of advances. It will be only for, I think, for term loans.
No. It is available for all.
Even CC and
Yeah, it is available. In Finacle, it is only the interest table code that would be available. And if there is a change in interest table, then only it will be appearing under INTTI. But then you can use a command called AINTRPT. Generate an entire interest report. In interest report, you will get all the interest rates as well. So you can immediately see that from this day, the interest rate got changed. But there is no subsequent change in table master, meaning thereby this rate got changed because the value in table master got changed. There is a difference between the two. If I change the table itself, it becomes a separate line item and it requires a sanction. But if my MCLR got changed and my table values got changed and subsequently based on that, my effective interest got changed, I don't need to do as a branch order anything, because that updation will be done at the head office level. But if I completely change the table itself, then it is under my purview that as a branch, why this change has happened. Right? Understand the difference between the two.
Table in the sense of MCLR plus whatever addition that they are giving.
Yeah, table is a code that is generally given that you select this code so that MCLR plus 2% will be applied. That code itself is stated that way.
So you mean to say 2% whatever that MCLR plus 2%. That 2% becomes 3%. Then sanction copy is required. Otherwise, MCLR changes are there. That
then you don't require any sanction, like sanctioning specific sanction for the change in interest rate. So that is why I stated, if you are auditing through TCS banks, you will find changes in all interest rate history. Whenever you find a change, just see to it how when the MCLR got changed and to what extent. Whether both the changes are matching, then it is an MCLR change. But if there is a change, there is no change in MCLR, but then also there is a change in interest rate, then ask for the sanction copy. It may be an increase side, it may be a decrease side, whatever side, right? Okay. Now the next point is this: whether interest rates have been reviewed in line with the changes in reference rates. Now, why this question is here? There have been instances in banking where instead of updating interest rate through tables, what I explained just now, they used to update it with a static number. So what will happen is your sanction letter says that MCLR plus 2, at the time of sanctioning, the rate of interest used to come, let's say 8.5, example, right? So they'll mention by hand 8.5, static number. But now MCLR got changed. But since it was updated as a static number, interest rate won't get changed. And that is precisely what this requirement of reporting is.
so that is also there.
Yeah, so then you need to mention this, right? And now see, up till previous change, that is before this change, it was not specifically requested for these kind of thing. Now it is specific onto this kind of thing. So what we need to do is, we need to review this part as well. Otherwise, you will be mentioning, yes, everything is in order. Whereas the accounts that you listed might have some issue into this. And that is where the Excel file that I stated earlier would be useful. Right? What I informed is useful for your entire auditing plus your working paper, post to your audit as well. What you have verified this, you have even jotted down the information, important information from this. So no one can say that you have not audited. If you are not audited, how can you get the information? Right? So it is your working paper as well, part of your working paper.
Sir, one more point, sir. Identifying directly the rate of interest from the circular is correct, then whatever your process said is okay. But identifying the correct rate of interest applicable for particular advance is itself is very difficult because of the various circulars and the terms and conditions in the circular. The credit rating based on also they are.
See, I always go by the sanction term. If it is sanctioned, all process of variation, deviations, whatever is there is followed under a sanctioning process. Once the sanctioning is done, my role starts from that. Yes, if you have observed any issue in sanctioning terms, let's say what you are saying is on a sanctioning, then you need to mention it under sanctioning, not into this, that there is a lacuna in sanctioning part, but not under this. Once you have a sanction letter in place and it is not properly updated into the system, here it comes.
Changes in interest rates on circulars will be able to.
Yeah.
They have to.
Sir, if it is not available, simply visit the website of the bank. All MCLR changes are available. And that will be hardly 5 or 7 times. Max, I'm saying. Right. This year is an year in which there are multiple changes have happened, because RBI also changed the rates quite a number of times. But that would be available on the bank website. So what you need to do is you need to mention it that from this date, the bank's base rate, benchmark rate got changed from so-and-so to so-and-so. That's it. Right. And you then equate this with your review process. Then comes the frequent renewal of short-term loans. Are there any issues wherein frequent review, short review, or short-term loans renewed frequently? Just to avoid turning it into an NPA, because 180 days is the max limit. You can't get anything more than 180, and that's pretty clear in IR provision now. Any number of time you want to do any review or anything, if you have this expiry date fixed, let's say 31st of December, right? 180 days. From 31st of December, you need to renew that account. Now, for renewal, you require a financial statement. Now, understand, I am now taking you to a path where you might be making a mistake. You are mentioning in your LFAR that this is a borrower where since last 2 years, no financial statements have been obtained. You got my point? If that is the case, how the renewal happened last time? That is first question. Without financial statement, what is the renewal that you can do? Max to max, you can have a short review, but you have now 180 days to play around. Initially, banks used to say that way, that each renewal should not be more than 90 days. So they used to do it for 5 years as well. Every 90 days, they'll punch in some figure or some day that yes, we have done short review, short review, short review, short review. There used to be banks or branches where even 3 to 4 years, no financial statements are available for any of the borrowers. But now it's pretty clear. The moment you mention that the financial statement is not available, 180 days past, gone case. So your one of the observations should not be contradicting with the other. I don't want to say that you don't mention the observation at all. Rather, mention the other impact of that as well. If you find that a person is not submitting financial statements, how the renewal process has happened. Right? Just question that. If you find that it's an hogwash, mention it into this, as well as under asset classification, that this is completely a hogwash, and because the date was incorrectly entered into the system could not identify this account as NPA. So it will go under system determined classification as well. The third point that you need to mention is whether you agree with the asset classification of the bank. You need to say no, and you need to issue an MOC as well. Now just imagine your one observation having impact in multiple places. Right? Secondly, this time, whenever you audit any of the branch and where the borrower is required to have CARO report, please ask for copy of CARO report as well. It may so happen you will have financial statement, you have board report as well, but no CARO report. Or rather first part of a report, but not CARO report. Because CARO report now contains an aspect from an auditor of that borrower, whether the information submitted to the bank is correct as per the books of accounts or not. And that's the primary information that you will get, how the borrower is. If you don't have CARO report, ask for it. Even after your persistence, if it is not appearing, you may end up with issuance of a disclaimer if you wish to have that way. Assuming that you find some issue with CARO, that CARO has mentioned that certain cases, Then it goes on monitoring as well. If it has impact on asset classification because of these deviations, mention that into the system, mention that into an LFAR as well. Not only an asset classification, now in LFAR, you need to mention that whether you agree with SMA classification done by the bank or not. So SMA 0, 1, 2, standard, substandard, D1, D2, D3, and loss. All the type you are now certifying or other auditing. Initially, what used to happen, we used to start from standard. Now it is SMA 0, 1, and 2 as well. There are various conditions under SMA which cannot be implemented by the system. I have included those parts in later phase of my presentation. In that scenario, we need to check if such event is there, whether system has correctly classified it as SMAs. So now we need to have, what we need to do practically is copy paste the blank LFAR, mention your auditing plan, that how you would like to go with an auditing for this part. I'll show you how you can do that in 2, 3 aspects, right? And you can extrapolate that into all the points, right? Later part of presentation, it contains that how to audit. Then comes correctness and validity of credit rating and updation of credit rating in system. We have discussed this, right? Loan to companies for buyback transaction, dangerous question. Nowadays, dividend is now taxable in the hand of recipient. So now the companies are going with the buyback where the tax is being paid by the company itself. Right. That's a trend that has caught up with a lot of private limited companies as well. Right. One of the primary condition under Companies Act is buyback should be done only out of the free reserves as well as the balance available in the bank and not through the credit facilities. Now, this is there in LFAR now. Now, your situation is very difficult in this case. Reason being, how can you identify whether someone has done buyback or not? Right? It's a difficult situation. We'll discuss that in detail. I have point therein. Correctness of computation of DP. Again, a very tricky issue. Whether DP that was computed and updated into the system is correct or not. So you need an Excel sheet to compute DP, which is an ideal DP, which should be from the stock statements and the book debt statements, right, as per the RBI guidelines. Once you have that, you need to check whether the same is followed by the bank as well or not. Otherwise, what will happen? You will not find a single account. I bet amongst all, we would not have found a single case wherein DP was not met. But then also there are a lot of NPAs. If all the persons have sufficient DP, then how come an NPA takes place? So you all are aware with how the numbers are being played around, right? Now this has an impact on that CARO reporting as well. See, now I am connecting the dots in CARO as well as in financial statement. Both requires information on this one. If the base figures have not been properly given, then you can mention that way that as per CARO, this was the issue, and due to which the DP computation would be so and so, whereas it is updated as so and so. Mention everything what you have, but don't limit yourself to mentioning that. Also check on IRAC implementation part, that if you change the DP or you say that the DP is exaggerated, right, whether it has any impact on asset classification. If so, mention that as well. It may so happen that during the year it might have turned into NPA and thereafter might have got upgraded, but there is a problem in asset classification and system determined asset classification. Mention that. You may not be required to issue MOC, maybe because of this fact, or account might have got closed before 31st of March, but there is an issue with the system. And that is what is required to be reported. Stock audit required but not carried out. So just review the policy where the stock audit is applicable and ask for the stock audit report. and stock audit carried out, but no action taken against adverse remarks. So both the things we need to mention. So what we need to do ideally is first ask the MR letter kind of thing that, sir, how many cases credit rating is applicable? How many cases stock audit report is applicable? Get the numbers, also review the policy, credit document that where the stock audit is applicable. Let's say they say 5 crore and above limit, right? You identify the account from the system as well, and how many accounts are there, or even a report as well, where the stock audit should be applicable. And then ask for the stock audit report copy. Once you have an audit report copy and having certain adverse remarks, ask for the compliance thereof as well. If you don't get, simply mention, right? So this is how the process is. Whatever I have narrated now, you simply need to update it into your blank copy of LFAR so that what you will be doing for this or how you propose to carry out audit. So that becomes an audit plan. Right. Okay. Then comes obtaining diligence report for multiple banking or a consortium banking arrangement. Whenever there is a consortium finance or a multiple banking arrangement, whether diligence report is obtained or not, one of the bank or the lead bank probably would be obtaining this part, and we need to review that whether the same is carried out or not. Red flagged accounts. Deviations observed in such account. Simply you need to first obtain which are the red flagged accounts. If required, obtain confirmation, each confirmation separately or in a single document duly signed by the branch manager, because these are the cases where you will require their confirmation first because you don't have access to anything, right? Red flag accounts, from where you will get? Which are the flagged accounts, right? So we need to now obtain that confirmation from the manager. Adverse features observed. Now these all are amendments I am just talking about. Huh? See the list of amendments. Adverse features observed in top 5 standard large advances. Accounts are standard, but top 5. Whether any issues that you have observed, mention it now. It's a specific point here. See, basically this LFAR is designed in such a way that if you have not carried out audit, you will not be in a position to prepare the audit report. As simple as this, right? Security creation in case of lease finance. Is there any lease finance? If so, whether security is properly created or not. Very important point here. Identification and classification of advances through automated system without manual intervention. Very dangerous point. How can you say there is manual intervention, or how can you say that there is no manual intervention? Right. Now, I am saying that the stock is of 2 crore. They have updated as 20 crore. With 2 crore, DP would not be sufficient enough and the account would have turned into NPA. With 20 crore, the DP would be more than sufficient. Can I say that this is a manual intervention, or I can only say that this is only an error? We need to see the circumstances, and based on that, we need to update it, our response. Now comes the second part of, I stated in the initial period that I'll ask you to mention 2 things in your notepad. One Excel file that we already discussed. Second file. One activities I am suggesting you to do. It's very important for this part as well as for concurrent audit and year on year. Now, what I'm asking you to do is open master direction on IREC or master circular on IREC. Dissect that into 4 parts. So you need to open a blank Excel sheet, Excel file. Open 4 worksheets. Downgradation, upgradation, provisioning, and revenue recognition. 4 parts, right? I have entire circular with para number and everything, page number and everything, PDF file, right? What I need to now do is, I need to dissect this entire circular into these 4 parts. downgradation, upgradation, provisioning, and revenue related, right? 4 worksheets. You start with para number, page number, and copy paste the entire thing. If you do this exercise, you'll end up getting an information that there are about 10 to 12 conditions under which the account should be downgraded. Now understand the implication of this. Whether all these conditions have been embedded into the system for automatic classification without manual intervention. If you start inquiring about all these points, you'll find a shocker. There are plenty of things where no automated system would have been set up. Simple example, agriculture advances. Whether they have included the crop, type of crop, in majority of the banks, they have not. So how can you say it's a short-term crop or a long-term crop where the crop details have not been entered into? Fair enough? First part. Second part is updation of dates for project financing, where DCCO, date of commencement of commercial operation, is not updated. You need to update projected DCCO, you need to update extended DCCO, you need to update actual DCCO. Now, even though you are making prompt repayment, but you have not achieved the commercial commencement, your account can still be classified as an NPA. Third part, failed restructuring. The account got restructured in parts. It is working on in certain number of months. It worked properly. Thereafter, again slipped. So now in that scenario, your NPA will go back, assuming that there is no restructuring that has taken place and the recovery mapped with the earlier one. Can you imagine any system doing that? Then how can we say yes into this? Yes, the system is working perfectly fine. We ourselves are digging our grave by mentioning yes. Don't never ever give an absolute assurance where you are not sure of or where you have not worked on to that part.
Even a manual intervention of changing interest rate, that also comes under.
Yeah. It comes, but it will not impact the classification of advance. If it is impacting classification, you can mention it here. Otherwise, it will come under interest part.
But there is a scope for impacting classification.
Yeah. There is a scope. There is a scope. Right. Okay. So now once you do this exercise in an Excel, you first and the foremost question that you need to ask and answer, we all are aware of. You ask for test environment with all test data so that you can respond to this query of LFAR. They'll say that we cannot give you test data, right? So first, tick mark. You need to mention that way. I'm just suggesting you in LFAR. We requested for a test environment to test the conditions that is or the LFAR point of so-and-so. However, we were informed that it is not available. The entire system is managed centrally or whatever is the fact that you got, right? In view of the same, we asked for deployment and implementation file for these conditions into the system. The logic that is used for deployment of this condition into the system. Now, if bank gives you, then just review it whether the condition or the logic that they have used is correct or not. I'm not saying about transaction testing, that will come later. But at least logic is correct or not. If logic itself is incorrect, then gone. Most of the bank will say no to that as well. So you need to mention that fact as well. We have requested for deployment logic for each condition mentioned under IRX circular. However, we have not been provided for such. In view of this, our process or our audit process is based on availability of information and testing of the system through the reports or an output only. Fair enough? And now you need to work onto the output side only. See, understand the logical flow of this entire process. Right. And thereafter, if you find any issue with any of the manual intervention or asset classification having an issue or SMA having an issue or whatever, Mention that. Don't afraid of giving MOC if you are right. But just to show that you have done some work and want to give an MOC which is not correct, please refrain with that as well. Right? Now, it's not going to be more than 2 branches allotted to any of the auditor. So you have at least some time. If you have done some prior work of a planning, you can very well do. Yes, it is difficult task. I'm not saying it is an easy, but it's a difficult, but you can very well work onto that one. We are all chartered accountants, so there is no point into difficulty won't come in us. Correctness of classification in SMA type as per RBI guidelines. So not only IRAC, within IRAC you have an SMA classification and whether that is proper or not. Accounts with 10 crore and above, downgraded or upgraded, reasons to be provided. Upgradation is possible. Please mark these words. In any case, IRAC, the person who would be taking IRAC would be taking this up. Accounts can be upgraded only when entire overdue is collected, meaning thereby no critical overdue, nothing of that sort, or overdue in one account but other account is properly done and that's why you just upgrade. No. At the customer master level, all the accounts should be outside the overdue. Even for a single rupee, if it is outstanding, it cannot be upgraded. Right? So whenever you find that the system has upgraded an account, on that day, check whether all the accounts of customer got positive balance or not. Right? Initially, what we were informed by bankers was this, that, sir, overdue is of 95 days. Account turned NPA. We have collected an amount equivalent to 6 days. So now it is 89-day overdue. So the account can be upgraded. That was one of the points. That's ruled out completely. Now let's take an example. Now this is very important. Let's take an example wherein account is still appearing in standard. Understand this and mark this. As on 31st of March with 89 days overdue. Understand this. 89 days overdue, and when you go into an account and find that account was outstanding for about 95 days overdue prior to 31st of March, but some amount got deposited and through which account is now appearing at 89 and the system has upgraded, or system had earlier not marked account as NPA, it's a fit case to be reported under this part. Identification of classification through automated system. System is not working. Simply put that way, with all the facts. All the facts. And that is one of the finest reporting that you will have. You have, even at the branch level, you have identified an observation that system is not behaving properly. Right? But for that, you need to understand the entire chronology of transaction, how the system behaves, and how the reporting should be. Right? Yes, sir.
Whenever there is even a small 2 days old, you also it is to be reported. But the question is, what about the materiality aspect? Suppose the overdue is only in thousands, then compared to in such case also, is it required to be classified?
No. I am not saying on classification. I am discussing on upgradation. When you want to upgrade the account from NPA to PA, you need to ensure that entire overdue is recovered. Then only you can do an upgradation.
That is what I am telling, sir. Even in such situation also, suppose there is overdue, there is in thousands only, there is a difference.
Even 1 rupee, sir. 1 rupee. No materiality. RBI has categorically stated you can upgrade an account only when the overdue is collected. 100%. And that too not only an account, across the board. Customer level. Right? So don't give any such kind of leeway, otherwise you will be in a difficult situation and you will receive a love letter from Reserve Bank of India. Divergence in account observed. So don't enter into that arena or domain only. Right? No leniency, nothing. Right? Adherence to RBI guidelines on restructuring, whether RBI's guideline on restructuring was followed or not. Now, these all are amendments. I am still on to amendments. Upgradation in line with RBI guidelines. If not, whether auditor disagree with the state upgradation. See, this is the point. Process under IBC is mandated, but not initiated. Just imagine the granular level till which this amendment has taken place. Obtaining valuation report for NPA account once in 3 years, or if it requires lesser period. Right? Details of cases wherein compromise settlement and write-off cases involving write-off waiver in excess of 50 lakhs to be provided. If there was any case of write-off or compromise more than 50 lakh, we need to mention the detail hearing. Promptness of branch in ensuring execution of decrees obtained for recovery. Many of the time what happens is you need to work fast on recovery process, but somehow or the other that process is not getting initiated. You got a decree also in your favor, but you have not executed that part as a branch. Now this point tells about this, that decree is obtained and pending for execution, right? And you happen to be an auditor of this ARC, asset recovery branches, then this point would be very important in your reporting. Appropriation of recovery against principal interest as per bank policy. The first and the foremost, you need to understand what is the bank's policy in appropriation. So what you can do is last year balance sheet, you can go through this accounting policy, or even the material that we get now, we get in a soft format. We need to see the sequencing of recovery. Once we get a sequencing of reporting recovery, we need to ensure that whether the same is also applied in system in the same manner or not. Right? Generally, charges, interest, and principal. That's what the process is. But whether the system is also going in sync with that or not. Right? Centralized record maintenance, whether auditor received relevant document asked for. Now, this is very important point, because most of the time what is happening is when we go to the CPCs, where the documents have been stored, we at times we find certain files, and certain files they say no, it's not available. A lot of auditors are there and we have a lot of things and we are not in position to review it. I would suggest, we happen to have this kind of issue in 2 of our audit, though 4-5 years back. In that scenario, we mentioned it at 2 places. One is in LFAR. At that point of time, this LFAR was not there, but in the earlier LFAR. And we also qualified our main audit report because we were not even aware of whether bank has security document. It was an housing loan document. And CPC said that we are not in a position to trace that. So I was not aware of that, what is the quality of documentation or whether documents were available with the bank or not. So I qualified my main audit report as well, because it was a material this one for me, right? So not only this, think it over for main report as well if it is material. List of instances where interchangeability between fund-based and non-fund-based facility was allowed subsequent to devolvement of LC or invocation of BG. Now understand this. This is a classic case of maneuvering and saving an account turning into an NPA. I'll explain you in detail what is this. There is a limit of, let's say, 50 crore fund base. Customer has used to the brim, that is up to 50 crore. And then there is a limit of 20 crores of non-fund base, that is BG and LC, that is also used to the brim. Fair enough? Now, what is happening is this 10 crore LC is getting devolved. So the moment the LC gets devolved, it gets into the crystallization mode. That is, it goes out of the balance sheet to the on balance sheet, that is funded exposure, right? So what will happen is, as against 50 crore limit, the customer's outstanding would be 60 crore now, and that will be 10 crore overdue, right? Now, interestingly, what bankers do, in 2-3 days time, once you move 10 crore out of contingent to this one, this becomes higher fund base, but against 20 crore, now we have only 10 crore of guarantee outstanding. So 10 crore is free, and conveniently they would have put condition of interchangeability of limit in sanction letter. So what happens is, the bankers invoke that interchangeability and they transfer the limit from non-fund based to fund based. The moment you do this, the fund base would be within limit and non-fund base would also be within the limit. It's a classic case of maneuvering with this thing. RBI stated that nothing doing, you mentioned this all kind of thing. So your important trigger point is invocation of DG and development of else. 1 point. Second source of information is in Excel we have mentioned, right? Initially when I stated, are there any changes that you have found out in the limit, sanction limit, drawing power, and whether it's there in document or not? During that, you'll also find changes. You need to now map how this change has happened, how sanction limit got increased. Now, if you find that wherever there is an increase in the sanction limit or interchangeability document, just see, is this interchangeability due to these events, right? So that also we need to check. Now, this point, though it came from in 2021, I was assisting a central statutory auditor in probably 15-16. At that point of time, RBI took out this point in their annual report, annual auditing Spark report. And they stated that you have actually to hide or to lower your NPA, you have done this. And it was a shocker for us also at that point of time, how a novel method of accounting or
You mean to say interchangeability is allowed, but for the classification purpose, they should not use that.
no, not classification. Interchangeability allowed, but done at what point of time?
Yeah, that is what, that point of time they should not do.
Yeah, no. If they have done, you need to mention. That is what the report requirement says. But my point is this, that if you are already in overdue and if you are doing an interchangeability of this, then your question should also be there on IRAC as well, asset classification as well. Here you need to report in asset classification or in monitoring, you need to mention that it was done after this one.
If we are reporting interchangeability is okay with the banks, no problem from RBI.
No problem.
They can do that.
Yeah, but if it is preceded by this event, then there is a alarm. Right now, it is not your role to only do an alarming reporting. You also need to see the background as well if you have an additional information available with you. Right. Now comes the liability. Interesting point on an auto renewal of an FCNRB. Foreign currency non-resident deposit B. B is a second version of FCNR. This type of facility is available only to the non-residents. If you put it on an auto renewal mode, what will happen is it will get automatically renewed without even understanding or even ascertaining whether the customer still is an NRI or not. It is very important and it is very difficult as well for us as an auditor to review how many FCNRBs got auto renewed. So we need to simply need some help from the branch only. I have mentioned some of the points that how we can get those as well. Compliance with minimum balance charges requirement in individual savings account. Now it is also there. Is this happening because of me? Or it has also given up with LFAR amendments.
Call the person, sir. In the meantime, we'll continue, sir.
How to check this minimum balances?
Yeah, I am coming into this. Sir. Minimum balance, there is a detailed circular issued by Reserve Bank of India, wherein you cannot simply collect minimum balance charges. You need to first issue notice. Then you need to charge minimum balance to the period only when for those days where the minimum balance was not maintained. There's a detailed process. Now the point is this, how many banks actually follow this? Now this, I am again not sure how this has come into statutory audit, but if it's there, we need to follow it in that sense. Select some of the accounts and ask for the compliance in terms of that RBI circular. You search for an RBI circular for minimum balance collection. You'll find a detailed guidance for that. And once you have a detailed guidance for that, you check whether compliance is done by the bank with RBI guideline or not. Take a sample of 2, 3, 5, whatever you find it appropriate, and you select a sample of normal savings account where whether this minimum balance is properly being computed or not, right? So that is what we can do into this one. Books and records, software used at branch and not integrated with CBS. Again, a difficult question. How many softwares are there at branch and whether all the systems are interconnected with the CBS? It's a fallout of that Nirav Modi case, right? Okay. Then comes procedure laid down for manual intervention to system generated data and authentication thereof. Simply not feasible at all at the branch level, but that's how the things are. Auditors comment on data integrity, again a dangerous point, including data entry, checking correctness, integrity of data, no back-ended strategy, which is used for MIS at HO. If you find that any divergence into that Excel file, right, then everything you need to mention it into this. That there is a problem in updation of this, as per your sanction letter is so and so, you have updated so and so, and then there is it is having an impact on so and so, so and so, so and so. That's why I've started with that Excel file first, and that's why I'm not giving you that Excel file prepared. Otherwise, you will not be in a position to work. You simply start working on a cut, copy, paste, right? So only two things I am not giving. This is the one, and the other one is IRA dissection, right? You do it, you will really enjoy working onto it, and probably you will get some more idea onto this as well. Sorry?
That second Excel sheet, whatever you mentioned to prepare, can you give with an example?
Example is, let's say, see, currently my PC is not connected. My PC would, what I'll do is, once I'll finish off my session, I'll connect my PC. I'll show you how to prepare it, right? You can take a snap of one of the sheet, right? So you can get an idea, but just remind me before I finish it off, because I need to reset up everything because this Zoom call is on here. Then comes fraud. Fraud detected, classified, not having confirmation from RBI, meaning thereby you need to update as a branch level if any fraud has happened, whether the same is reported to RBI into that fraud reporting system or not. Auditors comment with respect to fraud, potential risk. Refer the detailed early warning signals mentioned in LFAR. LFAR contains certain EWS part that whether early warning signals, based on that, do you find that any fraud prone area or any account which is meeting with all these things. Our institute has issued an excellent early book on ebook on early warning signal. You can just search on that. It's about 50-100 pages, right? And it's a good book. There is a master direction on fraud this by Reserve Bank of India, wherein early warning signals have been given. Based on each early warning signal, ICAI has come out with a material. So you can just refer to that material that gives you an insight about it. And that material or the nectar from that material, you will find important for this auditing, right? So it can be like this way, that during a discussion, if you, during a review, you find that this is the important point of that EWS. And if you find such kind of thing in your auditing, you simply mention it here. It will be an excellent reporting from an auditor, excellent reporting, right? I assume that we'll all do it. We need to improve upon our quality as well. And we need to show it to the regulator as well as to the auditee as well, that yes, we also do audit in a proper manner. Fair enough, right? Effectiveness of EWS, that is early warning signals that we discussed. KYC and AML, adequacy of system and processes with respect to KYC and AML. You can do sampling. Simple sampling is required for some of this one. whatever document that you verify, ensure that it is in compliance with the KYC guidelines. So you need to open the master direction of KYC. Adherence to KYC and AML guideline branch, the test checking. Management information system, again a system related part. Availability of proper system and procedure to ensure data integrity relating to all data input used for MIS. See now that Excel file. Just imagine the diversion or divergence observed in that file is required to be reported in multiple places. Right. So you need to now think it over. Your entire LFAR requirement should be in your mind. Then only you will say that, no, you may not be sure with the number, para number, but at least you should be aware, no, somewhere again we need to mention. Right? Or you can start with the blank LFAR, the one that you have mentioned that how you will carry out audit. One more column you can add and mention that this reporting requirement requires comment from which table or which document. So at that point of time, you can mention Excel file or whatever name that you have given, integrated document or kind of, right? Any case observed during audit wherein data integrity was compromised. I would always say that if a credit rating was updated, not correctly updated, changed, or EMI got changed without even this one, or sanction limit got changed without approval. Now I would say that it's a compromise only, right, into the system, data integrity. Miscellaneous response to be given against each type of audit carried out at branch. Now we need to mention that each type of audit that was there, and there is a list of audit reports, and we need to give comment against each. So when the audit took place, what was the period of audit, which are the prominent observations, and what is the compliance, this one, against each, right? Now, yeah.
Audit reports, whatever they are done for the branch, that only branch manager has.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we won't know.
yeah. So that is, it presupposes that we have obtained a confirmation from them, right? Shall we have a break right now or afterwards?
I will inform you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right. Okay, so now this is what I was referring to. When you start with a blank LFAR, how you can prepare your requirement and audit processes. The left side is what LFAR contains. Right side is what you will be mentioning in your own language, that how you propose to carry out an audit. The next column can be the suggested remarks, pre-mentioned, that is template. Then it may contain system from which you can use that one. I'll show you other presentation as well. So it can give you an idea as well. Yeah, see this one. This is my other presentation, though currently I'm not taking CBS in your branch, but this is what my other presentation is. Now this is what LFAR is. This is what suggested audit checklist. Now this suggested audit checklist is based on a system part only, because I generally take CBS. So this is what based on CBS part, right? And this is what the CBS and menu code or flow. Right. So your LFAR, you can have a dissection into multiple columns, that this is what the RBI has asked for. This is what we would be doing it. Source from where we'll be doing it, how we'll be reporting. You can expand. You can have a group as well at the branch level. Young people who are proficient enough in MS Word or Excel, they can also contribute, and you can give your guidance as well. See, currently you are in a perfect time that you have not been allotted, but you are expecting, but this activity if carried out, it will be useful for all persons. Those who will participate will gain more, rather than simply person who will be simply using it because they have not applied their mind. It's a best exercise. It hardly 12 hours or something. So you can say 3-4 days time, 3 hours, 4 hours kind of thing. Please do it. if any youngster would like to take a lead, I'll ask sir to share it with that. And with all due acknowledgement as well, that these are the persons who have worked on to this one, right? Let's become a branch where actively we participate as a whole, not my individual, not working as a silo, right? Anyone who is an individually would like to do, you have 3 tasks now. 2 I have given earlier, Excel one, dissection one, and this is the 3rd task, right? So this entire presentation is this one. If you want, I can give this as well, but I'll not share it today because you have a session today. So I don't want to be barging into someone else's this one. This was on cash. This is on advances, right? Each aspect and with all important this one. It's a very long presentation. Now, this was what I was referring to. In any case, it will come SMA 0 and 1 and 2. This is what suggested audit checkpoints, right? Someone, sir, asked probably the minimum balance requirement. So I mentioned that part as well. Right? Yeah. These are the possible events for MIS related this one. Against each point, that is, these are the possible events that is also mentioned. Right. I'll share this presentation, not only this, there are other 2 presentation of mine and a detailed write-up in Institute's concurrent audit manual. In and all, about 200, more than 200 pages of background material would be there on CBS. I'll share as well. Right. You can make use of that as well. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now coming back to this one, we have an LFAR requirement. We have an audit requirement or an audit process. We have an audit process. In case of this one, report on all advances, including NFB, non-fund based limits. If not readily available, seek the report wherein NFB limits are also included. Fair enough? Right. Wherever we are aware of that, we can generate it from so and so, we need to mention that way. Assuming that this is first year working in this style, we may not have information. But next year onwards, we can simply mention that update R5 that asks for this report. So it will be very easier. The moment we land there, or even before that, we can say that prepare or list out or get a copy of these reports as well. Right. So it's an ongoing process. Only thing is that this time it will require some time. Right. Sorry. Ascertain the total advance, that is FD plus NFD as per GL, and balance sheet as on balance sheet date. Right. So that becomes our base. Right. Select the customers qualifying for the limit of 10% or 10 crore based on the above report and computation. Right. In LFAR, it is prescribed that account number is to be mentioned. However, along with account number, auditor should also mention cost ID. So we can understand that because it goes on a limit is for the customer, right? If there is no space available, we'll mention account number only. Yes, sir.
One query, sir. If anyone falls in that threshold, let's say somebody is having 11 crores of, does that mean that we should examine all the limits of that customer, sir?
Yeah. That is what I mentioned. Just a minute. Yeah. See, you need to mention, read that line left side. For this purpose, large advances are those in respect of which the outstanding amount is in excess of 10% of outstanding aggregate balance of fund-based and non-fund-based advances of the branch, or 10 crores. Meaning there you need to compare apple with apple only. So if you consider FB and NFB, you need to consider FB and NFB of customer as well. But that's what the limit that we have for the customer. And you need to compare it with the total of the branch FB and NFB outstanding as on 31st of March.
There is one customer enjoying some 5 limits. So if we select the customer, all the limits are.
Yeah. Customer only you need to select. Total aggregate for a customer. All accounts, all facilities rather, not only accounts, facilities as well. Yeah, just a minute. I'll finish up this table. Right. account number, account name, balance at the end funded, balance at the end non-funded. Now this is what is mentioned in LFAR. I am not adding anything of mine. Then the total. So once you mention everything, this will be auto-populated that what is the percentage verification that you have carried out. It will be operand from LFAR itself, right? And you cannot say that it was sampled. You have mentioned yourself into LFAR, right? Let's head for a break of 10 minutes and we'll reassemble here. We'll reassemble from this side. Okay, so let's now resume from where we left. We need to switch off this light, I suppose. We need to switch off this light. Yeah. Okay. So now comes this quick mortality case. The process that we require is this: obtain list of NPA accounts, often report containing list of all advances accounts with date of sanction and disbursement. Review the accounts identified NPA in a year under review. So what we need to do now is, which are the accounts that got NPA in this year, and check the date of sanction. If it is within 12 months, then it is required to be reported into this in this format, right? Use CBS functionality of account master verification for sanction and disbursement date. So that would be useful. Alternatively, account statement for transaction can also be reviewed from when the transaction got started.
One thing, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is the NPA last year itself. It is not identified by the statutory orders or branch bank orders.
Yeah, if you have identified, you can very well report it, because you are, sir. You are certifying or you are signing on an what do you call advance sheet of 31st of March 2023 in this context, right? Now in 31st of March 2023, if you find any account which is required to be marked as NPA with a date of a year prior as well, you can very well do that. Very well, you can do that. You don't need to see whether the previous auditor has done or what he has done. Are you satisfied with the classification of the branch where you are auditing or not? If you are not satisfied, or you feel this account should be substandard, doubtful, or some at loss asset, right? You need to give, and the date should be the actual date. It may be a year prior. It may be.
But it will reflect on the previous year's auditors by making last year's date as a NPA.
Fair enough, sir.
So they may refer, the Reserve Bank may ask that question.
No. Reserve Bank is generally asking. Now it may ask. Reserve Bank may ask. We are not here to this one on a divergence side. Reserve Bank being a regulator, they do one of the activity of identifying divergence as well. So in any case, if you report this, right, in current year, this RBI audit, they may penalize or they may ask explanation from that auditor, previous auditor, right? They may ask you as well. You need to simply say that this is the fact, and based on that, I have mentioned the correct date. So your document should contain proper explanation to why this date is selected as a date of NPA.
Date of NPA is not the balance sheet date.
No, never ever. Huh? Yeah. It is required to be identified as NPA as per the provisions of IRA. It can never be, rather it can never be the balance sheet date. It can never be, almost. You can say. Yeah. Yeah. Whether in borrowed account, the applicable interest rate is correctly fed into the system. Right. So first, what we need to do is this asking for a report. We may get, we may not get, but at least we need to put a request therein that whether this report is available. If not, what we need to do is we need to obtain a report containing advance accounts as on 31st of March. Interest parameter we need to use, and interest change history information related menu codes. In the other presentation, I have included therein, but in any case, probably the next speaker will also take care of this CBS aspect. Right, and review the same with sanction letter, including amendments if any. Right. So see, what I have done is I have synced all my audit process requirement in a prescribed manner. Though it is for a PPT format, you can do this part into a MS Word or Excel, and you can have this entire thing there itself. Right. Then comes this one, external benchmarking or an internal benchmarking. Whether the interest rate is reviewed periodically as per guidelines applicable to floating rate loans linked to MCLR or EBLR, that is external benchmarking rate. MCLR is pretty easy in terms of current setup. Problem lies with external benchmarking. Now, external benchmarking, updation into the system for an external benchmarking is quite an Herculean task, and whether proper interest table code is selected for that or not. So while doing that exercise of an Excel file, sanction letter, you find that MCLR loans, fair enough. But if it is an external benchmark loan, let's say MIBOR based, right? In that scenario, how the rate changes in the MIBOR is updated and at what frequency? Right, and how the interest change happens onto the system. If it is not system driven, reported. If it is manual intervention is there, you need to mention that as well. It is a tedious part in case if it's an EBLR. If it is an MCLR, more or less your problem is solved. I said more or less, not 100%, because there are instances of updation in a static format. That this is the static rate that I'll be updating into the system, say 9.5%. So whether your MCLR goes up, down, anything, it will remains there at 9.5 only. Right? If that is the case that you have identified, you need to report it into this part. Then comes, have you come across frequent renewal, rollover, or short-term loans? If so, give details of such accounts. So now it is only asking for such cases. So each bank has a different set of process to review renew of loans. We have discussed onto this part in detail earlier as well. I have kept everything in detail in this presentation as single slide format, so that you can make use of this at the time of auditing. Or if you are actually going to work on that file that I have suggested for LFAR, then you can make use of this and add few more points of yours as well. Right? Then comes whether correct and valid credit rating, if available, of the credit facilities of banks borrower from RBI accredited credit rating agency have been fed into the system. Important part. First, whether credit rating is obtained. Second part, whatever is the credit rating that is obtained, whether the same is correctly updated into the system or not. Fair enough? Right. Now, I have given you the example that if it is poorly credit rated, then instead of updating into credit rating, they'll mention unrated. Now, unrated will not have that much of capital requirement. Right. So many of the time we have observed this, the banks, they say that no, it is unrated. But if it is mandatorily to be credit rated, you need to ask for this. You simply cannot go ahead with that one that it was not required to be, it was required to be credit rated, but still unrated. Right? Understand this, because unrated has, let's say, 100% of a capital requirement, whereas the poorly credit rated would have requirement of 125 or 150%. Right? So this is what the steps that you can follow. Did the bank provide loans to companies for buyback of shares or securities? Now, this is where I stated that we'll discuss it here. Now, it is very difficult to answer this on a cent% basis. However, a process, we can do a process, we can carry out a process hearing. Carve out corporate borrowers out of total advances. So that's only where you, that this is applicable. Review financial statements of corporate borrowers. Review the search report obtained from company secretary. Review company's master data from MCA website for any change post to the financial statement on record. So now you have financial statement contains 2 lakh shares, issued capital. But current current MCA database shows 1,80,000 in the paid up capital, the master data, right? In that scenario, that is some change has happened in a negative term, change has happened in the buyback, or maybe a buyback or a reduction of capital. So now we need to select that customer, that to understand more in detail. Generally, it is required that the borrower must take approval of bank first whenever there is a loan outstanding, NOC. So it may come into this communication file as well. But if it is not there, this is the process that we can carry out.
Sir, here you are mentioning the indirect way of financing the buyback option.
We are just identifying, are there any customers where buyback might have happened? We are still not going into detail whether financing for buyback was done or not. Once we identify the customers where possibility of buyback is there, and zero it in on those specific customers or the companies, and then we'll carry out the activity of verifying whether the funds were utilized for buyback or not.
So fundamentally, bank cannot lend the money for buyback.
Yeah. So that is where the point come in. No? See, fundamentally it is true, but actually,
you know, like if they have taken the loan for some X purpose, but they have utilized for it, how we will match that?
no, that is what comes in play, right, sir? What you will be driving on a very dicey road, or rather tightrope walking. What I can do, I can say is this: for buyback, you need to open a new account. Right now, if you don't have money into your current account, right, you would have transferred from CC account to current account. The entire money flow will go there. From that current account, it will go to the specified account open. Right. So that is where you can say, I don't want to say that bank has provided any specific loan. Then what we need to mention is that no loans have been specifically sanctioned for buyback. However, in this case, buyback has happened and the money flow denotes that the funds were utilized from CC account, which went to the current account, and current account so and so account, or from CC account directly to that account, and the CC account was in debit balance, meaning thereby we have utilized the limit, right? So that's what my
Ideally, you are saying end use of funds is better.
Sir, end user fund we do verify, but it is very difficult to identify whether end use is for buyback or not, unless and until you identify potential customer where buyback would be there. Right. So that's why I'm asking you to go from top to bottom and then verify with this one. Otherwise, to verify the entire gamut, it is not feasible at all. Right.
Here the point is review communication file with bank seeking permission for change.
Generally, capital structure change, you will require permission whenever there is a loan that is there. Now, bank may give. See, bank may say that you don't utilize our funds. Fair enough. Right. But at least whenever you change a capital structure, right, increase, decrease, anything, then you need to at least intimate, or in certain cases, you need to obtain an approval. So whether that communication file contains this or not, these are source of information. So once you get an information, then you need to start building off your auditing. Now, this is only to get the source, because it's very difficult to get, because it's not available directly. Right. Any loan where the purpose is mentioned as buyback, that is a clear-cut violation. Right. So our answer should be, did the bank provide loans to company for buyback? There was no such case verified observed during the year. That may be our answer. However, if you are verified for that type of case, that becomes your observation. Is the DP properly computed? Very simple question. Very difficult to answer. Very difficult to answer. There are a lot of permutation combination. Dhananjay is also going to be there tomorrow. You can post this question to him as well. All the speakers, we have this difficulty that how to compute DP, that is the first part, and whether DP is properly computed or not. You can refer my name as well, that Kuntal has asked to question you. He's the one who has written a recent paper on IRAC in Institute Journal as well. You can download that. It's a beautiful article on IRAC and refreshingly new points are there. So before he comes in, you can even download that, review it, and you can question him as well. So that's how we generally go around. Review the details of stock statement, book date statement, creditors information, and other financial information provided by the borrower. Now, this is what the process that we need to carry out. Review the policy of the bank to compute DP with respect to how the paid stock is arrived at. Now, there are primarily two methods of arriving at this one. I would always believe one method says that whenever at the time of credit assessment, CMA data, whatever is already assessed, anything beyond that is only required to be reduced. But I always believe that is not a correct way of doing it. Reason being, there's a reason to it, that if you do that way, meaning thereby you always say that I have selected creditor up to that level. Then comes the debtor as well. Now, if you have an additional debtor, then you also don't need to do it. Right. So in that way, it becomes your liability, your DP is fixed. So that is not required to be done in that way. It is required to be done in an actual way. Whatever is the case, you need to identify the book dates or a stock statement and creditor information. You reduce the stock creditor amount from that and arrive at the amount for the DP. However, this is what my perspective. You review the bank's policy, and bank policy would have the computation methodology as well. You just replicate that methodology in Excel. You have the now information, that is stock statement, book date statement, creditor information. You try independently what the DP should be along with the margin. There have been instances wherein every month the margin gets changed while updating in the system. Accommodative DP. Right? So what is there in the margin in Excel file? We need to now mention that what is the prescribed margin for stock and book dates and what is actually considered in system. Right? So you can expand your Excel file in this manner gradually. It is advisable for auditor to prepare a template in spreadsheet and compute the amount. That is what we have discussed. In CBS, the DP is computed, updated in multiple ways. In certain cases, the CBS derives the DP using margin percentage and value of security updated. In such case, review of information from the security related menu code from CBS should be carried out. In certain cases, only DP amount is required to be updated. In certain cases, you need to update the gross amount, and then you need to reduce, the system will reduce automatically and apply the margin, and the applicable DP would be arrived at. So there are separate commands available. HCLM in Finacle. CLL is also there in Finacle. In TCS Bank, there is a security updation menu codes are there. Same is there in the FlexCube as well. So what is important is we need to understand that wherever we are auditing, which command is there. So when you prepare this file, now this is a common because I am speaking for a common. Once this is prepared, what you can do is beside that, you can mention that in a bank where we are auditing, we need to follow this process. If you are not aware of this at this juncture, when you go for audit this time, have this file ready, print out ready, and mention the menu code as well. Right? So next year onwards, you'll have an updated one. Right? Okay. Comment on adverse features considered significant in top 5 standard large advances and which need management's attention. So what we need to do is we need to have report containing details of all advances account should be obtained, and then apply filter for standard accounts and apply top 5 filter on standard accounts for review. So your samples are determined on various perspectives. Now, if you want to make a note of it, you can make note of this one, what I am going to speak now. Yeah, first source of sampling is 10% 10 crore, FB, NFB. Second one is quick mortality. This one sanctioned in this at least NPA date and sanction date as a difference of less than 12 months. Cases where stock audit is applicable. Cases where credit rating is applicable. Right. Cases where this top 5 standard cases. Just imagine. This is what your sampling is. I have not touched upon any on a liability side. KYC, AML, this minimum balance charge, FCNR, Forex transactions that comes under specialized branches. Right. Now, these are bare minimum samples that is prescribed into this one. Then there will be an additional one as well. Whether interest rate is properly computed, so you need to have sample of 5 accounts. Whether the interest computation is proper or not. Not only rate updation, whether computation of interest, charges, commission, everything is proper or not. So again, you need to have 5 samples. So one sheet is required where we need to mention that this is the minimum sample that we need to select and whether we have selected or not. Otherwise, see, while working, we may not be in a position to find out that how many areas we need to work on to. Right. So this is what happens if you can work in this context while putting this LFAR in place. Then you will find out that these are 7 or 8 places at least where minimum I need to have a sampling and the sampling methodology as well. See, in any case, you are not going to be in a position to verify 100%. That's nearly impossible. And such branches will be out of audit now. Right? Because if it is a very small branch, it won't be under audit. Right? Okay. Has the branch identified, classified advances into standard, substandard, doubtful, loss asset through the computer system without manual intervention? One of the presentation that I'll give you, it's not into this part. The other presentation I'll share. It has, as I've stated, it has 3 presentation and 1 write-up. In second or third presentation, there are events. I have deliberated in detail. About 13 events are there where there is a possibility of maneuvering with system, where system is confused in a way where system will not identify the account as NPA. Right. So these are the methods, actually novel methods. I used to take that session since last 5 years, 6 years. But this year I changed the presentation. But I kept that presentation because for 5 years continuously I used to speak like that way. In March, I used to speak about 15, 16 locations. So it is, even if you at a midnight, if you ask me to speak onto, I'll speak without your computer as well. Right? Because this is what I have observed, I have deliberated, and then I included into PPT. So that is why many of the times I'll say, I'll not give you this. There is a reason behind it. If you work, then you will be in a position to excel into that part. Right? you get everything pre-prepared, you won't learn that part. The most challenging part in the process of audit is to ascertain the classification and making of NPA accounts in CPS. Each bank has different set of processes followed for identifying and making of NPA. I'll give you some input into this one. You'll be surprised to know that banks would say that yes, our system is completely computerized. There are certain days on which the NPA script is not initiated. They call it NPA holidays. Can you imagine? Now that is possible only when you work into central statutory auditor level. We have identified, we have observed, though prior to what RBI has issued the circular, banks say that no, that day there was a holiday, so we did not initiate or we did not execute NPA parameters. Now, if that is the scenario, where I can place my trust on to? Now, you say that for these days, the NPA script did not run.
You mean to say NPA script has to run on
Daily basis, along with your day-end processes.
Even including working days and holidays.
Exactly, including holidays. Not at least at the branch level. Reason being, sir, we don't get excess of that much. I'm just sharing because I have observed this at a CSA level. What you can do is this, for satisfaction as well as for your documentation purpose, obtain a confirmation from branch stating that you obtain confirmation or get information from the head office that auditor is asking, are there any days during the year where NPA script, that is the script for identification and marking of NPA, was not executed? If so, the said dates are required. Right? Right? So you tell them that you talk to your technical team and the auditor wants a confirmation on this one. And bracket, you can mention known as NPA holiday or by whatever name called. So they should not be taking shelter under any of your words that is working with the language rather than the actual point.
Branch level, that fellow is not in a position to answer that question.
MR. If no MR, that is why I'm asking for. I don't want that person to be in a situation, a precarious situation where he will not be in a position to answer. That's why I'm saying, sir, you go to the technical team. I'll require, because I need to mention this. If you don't provide me, I'll mention that as well. Not provided. Right? So there are various aspects to it. One is NPA holiday means it will not happen. The second question. Now, these are all classical points that maybe at branch level, we may not be in a position to see it. Even, see, I may be at a different position. I may be at SCA, I may be at SBA, or I may be at concurrent audit level as well. But when I was there in SC along with some other auditor, we observed this. There have been accounts which have been marked as not to be identified as NPA. Everything is possible, sir, in system because of one or the other reason. I'll tell you why it was done, but its impact is very important. Now, there are certain cases wherein this natural calamity accounts hit by natural calamity. So there were particular region in the bank, this branch, particular branches where there was a natural calamity. Now there is a process of identifying natural calamity and what to do in such scenario. We have observed that there are certain cases where these accounts were marked that way that it should not be marked as NPA. The second set, the GST and demonetization time. At that point of time, they have given certain exemption or certain longevity period and certain. In that scenario, there was practically no time available with the banks to change their systems. So the path that they have taken was, don't use or exclude these accounts from NPA script. It's a very dangerous one. Assuming that is for a stopgap arrangement. Fair enough. In any case, that is not correct, but fair enough, it is for a stopgap arrangement. Who will ensure that it will be restored back once the arrangement is over? Now, I know particular bank and a particular bank in this year, this has happened. I would ask the next year if I am an auditor. If I'm not an auditor, who will ask? You would have heard the name of United Bank from Calcutta years back. I think in 2012, there was a problem where the bank results were shattered like SVB. Right? Though bank did not fall, but the chairman got changed and the bank's results were shattered. Now, in that context, when government and RBI and everyone swung into action, they found that the system was highly compromised. Infosys has released an communication at that point of time stating that we have deployed the system as bank has stated. Because for them, the client is this. For Infosys, the client is not RBI. Infosys says that my client is bank, and bank has stated you need to design system in this way. Whether system is in place for in line with RBI that or not, that's the bank's role. Interestingly, in that bank, it was, I don't have anything to produce as an evidence, but interestingly, some newspaper reporting came in that the bank had their system in place in such a way that any account less than 10 lakh was not identified or not included into NP identification. Right. It may be true, it may not be. So I always believe and I always say this, and I say it numerous times, though this time I'm not taking the technology part, but whenever I take session, at least 3 to 4 times, I'll always say this: never ever rely on any of the systems. Any. Reason being, the moment you rely onto the system, your intuition or even your ability to counter the system is vanished. If I say that, no, don't trust the system, then you will be alert. You'll check it from different perspective as well. Right. So I'm using systems, computers, and I grew up with computers since I was 6 years of age, 1989. My entire office was computerized from then. Right. So my father always says this to me. He himself is a programmer. He learned through books. I learned it through the classes, but he learned through books. So he always says that never ever rely on system. And interestingly, I'll tell you one thing, because it makes you slave. I'll tell you how. We have a file. I'm not boasting my work. I'm just putting a correlation here. We have a file of statement of total income computation, right? Now we prepared a template in 1989. Today is 2023. We still have the same kind of template. Every year we revise and we update the template. It's not that we don't have money to buy software, or rather we don't have a software. We do have a software. But even though we do this work as well, so that whenever there is a change in the Finance Act, we update the template. So by that, we reread this entire Finance Act. And many of the time we observe certain issues with my software vendor initial release. So we say to that person, boss, this is not correct. The provision is like this, you get it revalidated. Right. So that is why I always say that you use the softwares. I don't say you don't use it, but don't limit your, sorry? Yeah, computation of total income. Computation of total income. So we prepare on ourselves. We have a lot of tools that is within our office, interlinked tools. Right. So that's are connected through the server, and other office staff can use those things. But please use that kind of thing. Otherwise, your ability to work with the system and the processes otherwise would be compromised. Right. So this part, whether any feature of manual intervention is available at branch end or HO level directly in the backend database. Yeah, this is one more point. This is a classic point, and it is very dangerous also for bank to respond to at the SCA level and at the RBI audit level. RBI always asks this question to the banks. Do you have direct access to the database? See, the system work in this way. What you see is the front end, and where the data is stored is the back end. Ideal system says that everything should be carried out through the front end only. So whatever you want to do, you need to do it like this way. So there is an audit trail also available, right? With the use of front end menu, the updation should happen in the back end. RBI will always ask this question: do you have direct access to the database? So they'll say yes. How many cases you have updated database directly without even using the front end? Right, and that's why I have mentioned directly in the backend database. So on the front end, the account turned as NPA, but from backend it was changed to PA. I'm just giving you an example. They don't do it, but this is how the system can be touched upon as well. But even for a direct entry into the backend, there are logs available. Right, so it's not that completely open systems are there. Whoever want to do anything, they can do it. Right, so that's not the case. There are logs available. There are trackers available. Right. MR letter can also be obtained.
Most of the things that is interest updation, whenever there is a change, they do it only back end.
No. That is only through the front end, not through the back end. Interest table information change, that is done at the central level, again through the front end only, but you don't have an access to as a branch level. Right. There is a front end available to update the interest table master. The access is only given to the certain select person, but again through the front end only. Direct entry in the database is the most dangerous part. Right, most danger in any software, not only this, any software. I do something through the front end, but someone changes from the back end, right? That's the most dangerous part in any of the system. From branch level, the manual intervention may not be available. However, as discussed earlier in the presentation, certain events may hamper asset classification. Now, this event I'll show. Let this presentation over. I need to show 2-3 things that's there in my laptop actually. I'll show you because this entire Zoom and every set, all the setups are there. So that's why I have used my pen drive only to this. Whether branch is following the system of classifying the account into SMA 0, 1, and 2, whether the auditor disagree with the branch classification of advances into standard, including SMA 0, 1, and 2, substandard, doubtful, loss asset, the details of such advances with reason should be given. Just imagine. See the length of the question itself and the loaded part. SMA 0 means principal or interest payment overdue 1 to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, plus there are some sign of stress which may lead to deterioration in account. Right? Obtain list of all advance account at the end of the year and refer the overdue amount. Review the NPA related menu codes in CBS for classification. And these are some signs of stress. Now, this sign of stress would also, you'll find in certain part into LFAR as well, along with the fraud. Right? Now, these are some sign of this one. Revolving credit facility, outstanding balance is greater than a lower of SL or DP, SMA 1, 31 to 60, SMA 2, 61 to 90, and thereafter it becomes substandard. Now, even this SMA is also required to be signed by. This statement of SMA is also required to be signed by us. Right? Now, I'll tell you one thing. There are few banks where they don't have SMA classification into system itself. Right? What they do is to generate SMA classification, they'll generate a report, and report software, generation of report software will have logic that put it into 0, 1. No, that is not permitted. It has to be in CBS. If it is not there in CBS, report it. That bank uses this kind of method, whereas it is not appearing in CBS itself as SMAs classification. Right? Let them say that you want the classification, we have already given it to you. No, it has to be system driven. I am not going to check the reporting software. Reporting, whenever you go for a restaurant and you get an invoice, right? Have you totaled it out anytime? Right? There are instances wherein the total will not match. Reason being, I'm not saying that the restaurant is a fraudster or somewhere, but at the time of creation of a report, The basic fundamental of creation of a report, that they use the crystal report in normal this one. You may not have, you forgot to call certain thing on a front, that is front face, but at the time of computation you have included therein. So it is not appearing, but it is there. Right? Such kind of issues may happen. Whether the upgradation in non-performing asset is in line with the norms of RBI, we have already discussed this. Even a 1 rupee outstanding will not be allowed. Whether at the time of upgradation, entire overdue across all facilities have been recovered. In respect of non-performing asset, has the branch obtained valuation report of from an approved valuer for the immovable charge to the bank once in 3 years, unless circumstances warrant a shorter period, right? So the review of the valuation date from NPA report at the end of each financial year, and review the physical valuation report for correctness of information updated in CBA. I'll tell you one interesting part. While auditing at the center statutory audit level, we observed in one case, the account was of about, it was a consortium account. Account was having limit of about 750 crore. About 500 crore was unsecured portion. That was also, we were aware of. Account turned into NPA, right? But when we verified the provisioning part, we found that there was no additional provisioning for an unsecured portion, which ideally should have been there, right? So then we thought that how it can happen. We searched a lot of things. Then we found out that instead of updation of security of 250 crore, they updated 2,500 crore. Total security of a consortium was 2,500 crore. My share, for example, was 10%, and it comes down to 250 crore. So instead of updating my share only, the person has updated the entire share of consortium, entire security. So now what has happened? The provisioning got impacted, and impacted with a huge margin. See, 500 crore outstanding unsecured portion, additional provisioning through MOC, right? Provisioning on additional provisioning on that count. About 100 crore was an additional provisioning. Just 25% or something was there. Just imagine. Whether the case is concluded, whether in the case is concluded, the recoveries have been properly appropriated against the principal and interest. I think that we have discussed. Whether the scheme of automatic renewal of FCNRB, that we have discussed. This part is required. How you can identify, review the GL for FCNRB deposit, list of FCNR deposit from detailed GL. Now that you need to request the branch that generate the detailed GL for this. Review the date of deposit and date of maturity. In case of the high volume of FCNR, a specific report should be requested. If you don't get this report, mention as scope limitation that you are not in a position to get this report, and there are numerous accounts, right? They need to also provide you the report what is required for your auditing side, right? Is the branch complying with the regulation of minimum balance requirement, levy of charges on non-maintenance of minimum balance? I think we have discussed this. We can have a sample of this. One of the circular issued by RBI, I am giving you as an homework. Just search it on Google and you will find information on that. I think that's all wanted to discuss on LFAR. Now, if you have any queries, you can. Yeah, one by one.
Last year installment was not paid.
Right.
This year, current year, April and March installment is not paid. Whether it is NPA or not.
But how come April and March? In between, what has happened?
No, he has paid all.
No, sir. Then April won't be there, right?
See, last year, one installment which is not paid.
That is 31st of March 2022, right?
2020.
Okay.
This year, and the 2023, see, two installments were not paid.
Yeah. But earlier, the one which was not paid earlier, that is paid, right?
No, do you mean it is to be appropriated against?
Exactly, that is what is there, na? That you need to go it on a FIFO basis.
FIFO basis.
Yeah, sir. That is how they'll do. You can't keep something there, something here. No, no, no.
Last year, it is not on, unless you take that last year's reality.
Yeah.
Apply that one is-
No, no, no. System will automatically adjust it on a FIFO. Within FIFO, what should be the priority?
So that means it will automatically take
It should work in that way only, sir. If it is not working, check the bank's policy and qualify there itself. Right. But it will not happen. That much gray won't be there. Yeah, that I'll show. Any other questions, so that once this is stopped, I need to attach my PC and I'll be in a position to show you. Any other questions? Once you say that this over, I'll connect my PC and I'll show you some of the thing that was required. Yeah, okay.
Shall I keep it on pause, sir?
Yeah, no, you can, yeah, whatever you do.
Yeah.
But because my PC is required to be.
Yes, yes, I will do that.